Okay, guys, this question number one that we're going to discuss, that is, you have to understand now this patient, 55-year-old patient with a previous myopic LASIK, his corneal curvature is not the same as his virgin cornea. Virgin cornea is before the myopic LASIK. So you should understand what we do during LASIK. During LASIK, you know that cornea, the central cornea is flattened. You know that the central stromal ablation is done. So the central corneal flattening occurs. So when we are calculating the IOL power, if we are feeding the K data, okay, the keratometry, the corneal curvature data, we're going to get erroneous values. So that is why this question is of such a clinical significance. So you can't use the usual IOL formulae. Now what happens if you use the usual IOL formulae? I'll tell you there are three errors that are going to happen. Now what are the three errors? Number one is the instrument error. Now what is this instrument error? This is a keratometer error. Now what normally happens in a keratometer? You know what is keratometer, right? So keratometer is when you're measuring the corneal curvature. Now when we measure the corneal curvature, we are not measuring the entire corneal curvature. We are going to measure only a certain area, and the standard keratometers, they measure a paracentral area. They measure in the paracentral area, so that's around 3.2 millimeter diameter area. So they're going to measure only 4 points, okay? So 2 along the steepest and 2 along the flattest. So you're going to get 4-point measurements along around a 3.2 or a 3.4 millimeter paracentral cornea. Whereas when we are doing a LASIK, we are actually ablating. The ablation is more towards a central area. It's more in the central 2 millimeters. So the keratometer is not even measuring that particular area. It's bypassing that area to measure beyond that. So what I'm measuring is actually not the true measurement. So there I have an instrument error. Now what happens because of this instrument error? Now when the curvature is getting converted into refractive power, that means your millimeter measurement gets converted into a dioptric measurement. Okay, so there's a formula. So in that formula, we assume that the anterior and the posterior curvature have a set ratio, because this keratometer again does not measure the posterior curvature of the cornea, which is different from the anterior curvature, right? So what happens because of this is there's going to be a change in the refractive index of the cornea. See, normally that's what I put in a previous OTAT session, the keratometric refractive index of cornea, okay, assuming a normal virgin cornea, the ratio between anterior and posterior corneal curvatures comes to somewhere around 82%. Okay, so that is how the machine is set and the calculation is derived. So when you have that 82% ratio between anterior and posterior curvature of cornea, the keratometric refractive index of cornea works out to around 1.3375. All right. Now in a post LASIK patient, okay, a myopic LASIK patient, when you actually measure this refractive index, okay, going with this measurement and then you calculate, it comes to somewhere around 1.3248. So you see the difference, 1.3375 and 1.3248. So but still when we're using the keratometer, we are not using this 1.3248. We are still going to use that 1.3375, and we're going to use that in the conversion of millimeter into D, and therefore the D that I'm going to get is definitely not the true value. Do you understand? So I had an instrument error, and because of the instrument error I have a mu error, because I'm not even taking into account all these new changes and I'm assuming the original ratio, and I'm going forward with that 1.3375. okay. Now number 3 is the formula error. Now what is this formula error? Now if I'm going to substitute this K that I've got in my formula, obviously I'm going to get a totally different IOL power. Now when we've done a myopic LASIK, what happens is the corneal curvature, as I said, is flattened. Okay, the curvature is reduced. Now when I get this kind of a K value and I substitute in the IOL formula, I get an IOL power which is way lesser than what it should be. So when I get something which is way lesser than what it should be, why? Because we calculate something called ELP, effective lens position, based on the K values. Okay, so there are certain IOL formula where we calculate the ELP based on the K values. Okay, so now when I have an inaccurate K, obviously my ELP will also be inaccurate, and this ELP, effective lens position, so it will be more anterior, so it will show a shallow, that's what we call as a shallow ELP. So it will show that eventually the lens power that I derive will be of a lesser power, so I will get a lesser power. So when I get a lesser power, where will the image form? On the retina. Obviously when the IOL power is lesser, the image will be behind the retina. Power less, focal length more. So the patient post-operatively will have a hyperopic refractive error. So it's called what we call as a hyperopic surprise. Now hyperopic surprise is kind of like doomed. The surgeon is doomed, even the patient is doomed, the surgeon also is doomed, because now the patient will neither be able to focus for distance nor for near, because after cataract surgery your accommodation ability is lost because you've made an opening on the anterior capsule, so there's no accommodation after a extracapsular cataract surgery, I mean even an intracapsular cataract surgery. So what happens is now the patient is neither able to focus for distance nor for near, so he's totally blurred out and he's going to curse the surgeon. Right? Now even if you have a little myopic surprise, it's still okay because the patient will be able to see near clearly. Distance, yeah, maybe we can manage with glasses, but hyperopic shift is the worst for the patient and the surgeon. So sometimes what happens is it's so bad that you'll have to explant the IOL and you have to go for a new IOL placement. So these are the reasons why it's not that easy, or it's not a straightforward case when a myopic LASIK patient comes to you for a cataract surgery. Okay, so is there not a way forward? Yes, there is a way forward. Now if we do not incorporate the K values, number one, in our IOL formula, or number two, we have historical data. We have the patient's virgin cornea data. So when he went for the LASIK surgery, definitely we would have had the measurements, and if the patient has all those records, so from that we can get the IOL power. Alright, now you need to know a little more about the IOL formula. Now all that you know is SRK formula. Now SRK formula is actually hardly used. Okay, now there are 4 generations of formulae. Now as we were advancing, we have 4 generations of IOL formula. Okay. Coming to the different generations of IOL formulae. First generation, SRK formula. Second generation, SRK2. Okay, Roman number 2, SRK2, and Hoffer formula. Okay, Hoffer. Now, coming to third generation formula. What are the third generation? SRKT. T is some theoretical values added to it. So SRKT formula, then Hoffer Q. Okay, so SRK2 we had in second generation, Hoffer we had in second generation. So add something to that, you get your third generation for you to remember. Okay, so we got SRKT and we have Hoffer Q, then we have Holladay formula. Okay, so these are some of the third generation formula. Now fourth generation formula. Fourth generation, you got Holladay 2 and you got Huygens formula. Okay, so first, second, third and fourth generation formulae. Now what is important about these formulae is in Huygens and Holladay 2 formulae, we don't need K values. We don't use the K measurement there. So obviously in our question where we have a patient whose IOL power can be affected by K, obviously if I have a formula which does not even need K, that's going to be my answer. Okay. So given our options, we have SRK, SRK2, which all need K, and then we have a Huygens, the fourth generation formula, which does not need a K value, right? So you can use Huygens in this particular patient. So that's our answer. Regarding the fourth option, Hoffer Q. And you know Hoffer Q is also a fourth generation formula. Now Hoffer Q is particularly valuable if you have small eyes. For example, if you have a nanophthalmic eye. What is nanophthalmos? Axial length 20 millimeter or less, but with normal features. So if I plan to put an IOL in a nanophthalmic patient, then we would go for Hoffer Q because it gives an accurate IOL power for us. Okay, so additional things that you need to know. Hoffer Q is especially useful for short eyes. And then what for long eyes? SRKT. SRKT is very, very useful if you have longer eyes, especially axial length more than 26 millimeters. So that means in high myopes, SRKT happens to be more accurate. Okay, anything else? Can we use any other formula in this particular question? Okay, this particular clinical scenario. Yes, we have based on historical data. That's what I said, based on historical data, based on the patient's previous refraction and his previous pre-op measurements, okay, pre-LASIK measurements. Now, if I have the K values, if I do have the K values, then we have something called a Masket formula, okay, M-A-S-K-E-T, Masket formula, or you can again use the Barrett-Truquet formula. Now, if I don't have K values, without the K values, also I can use this Barrett-Truquet formula. And there's something else called Shammas, okay, S-H-A-M-M-A-S. So, Shammas formula can also be used. So, you know now, I can use high gaze, I can use Shammas, I can use Barrett-Truquet when I don't have K, and if I do have K, I can use a Masket formula, or I can use again Barrett-Truquet formula. Okay, so these are the various things that you should know about IOL formula. Okay, now that we know this much, now there are some newer formula, some advanced things that are coming up. So that is based on, data. Data is the next oil that we all know. Wars are fought over oil. So now wars are going to be fought over data. So based on data analysis, artificial intelligence. Okay, so there are formulae based on artificial intelligence. So one is Hill's RBF. So that is Hill's radial basis factor. Okay, Hill's RBF, Hill's radial basis factor. Number 2, Kane's formula, K-A-N-E'(S), Kane's formula. Number 3, we have LADA's formula, L-A-D-A-S. So these are 3 AI dependent or artificial intelligence using IOL formulae. Okay, so these are 3 new things that you have to know. Okay, please make a note of it in your notes. You never know with newer things, and when it's INICET, it's all the premier institutes whom we are talking about. So probably you can expect questions on these lines. All right. Now, is there something where again K is not at all coming into play? When you're purely talking about physics, where you're just tracing as the light goes in and how the light is coming to focus inside the eye. So what we call as ray tracing. What you've all learned in school physics, we've all done that, ray tracing. So ray tracing based formula. So this is based on Scheimpflug photography. Okay, so ray tracing formula is Olsen formula. Okay, O-L-S-E-N is considered very, very accurate because it does not at all depend on the K. So right now you know almost everything about the various IOL formulae. So this one question requires so much of discussion. I hope you found this useful. So let's move on to the second question.